Drop in the bucket. I'm just a drop in the bucket. What can I do, I've heard you say. But here's the thing about drops. They don't come in ones. And 1,000 drops, that's a sprinkle. Times 10, a rain. Times 1,000, a downpour. Times 1,000,000, a monsoon. Drops carve valleys. Drops crush rocks to sand. Drops spin turbines and light the sky. There's nothing much a drop can't do. So you're a drop in the bucket. Just a drop in the bucket? Be the drop in the bucket that rains hope on the world.
Get the whole story. Visit lookdeeper.ca.
That's from a new campaign trying to get people thinking about social justice, and they're doing it 1 minute at a time. You may recognize the voices of Belle Plain and Jaden Pfeiffer from that piece I just played. Well, it's part of a much bigger project organized by the Saskatchewan Council for International Cooperation and Go Giraffe Go. Robbi Humble is the communications officer for SCIC, and Brita Lind co-owns Go Giraffe Go. She also wrote that poem we just heard. Both of them join me now in studio. Good morning.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for having us.
So I just want to start by talking about the poem we just heard. Brita, what inspired the idea of drops in the bucket?
Oh, it was inspired partially also by my partner, Tanya, who said, I think people think that I don't make any difference. I'm just a drop in a bucket, is what she said. And then I keyed off that, and I went off to a local coffee shop, and I just sat and write and started saying, drop in the bucket. And also Tanya even said, she started throwing words at me, like all these words around water and flow. And actually, water is so powerful, and that people are so powerful, and an individual can be so powerful. And so many people today think that they're not. And so that's where we want to connect with people at that human level of where they're at and meet them there, and then maybe crack open the door of where they could go.
Robbi, let's bring you into the conversation because you work with the Saskatchewan Council for International Cooperation. You're partnering with Brita and her business on this whole initiative. It's a pretty lofty idea, but you're taking, like I said in my intro, 1 minute at a time. You're trying to sort of change people's perspectives on how they think about themselves and the world. But how did you even begin to sort of come into that conversation in a way that says, how can we do this in a way that can be digestible for people who are just happening in on it?
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. From SCIC's perspective, what we really wanted to do with this campaign is inspire people to look at the root causes of global issues. And we know that can feel daunting, but for us, that's where our members work. That's where we work. We work on justice solutions to global issues. And so we wanted to be able to connect with people, as Brita said, on that human level. And poetry and spoken word is such a great way to do that because it allows people to actually feel something. It's not just thinking. It's not just talking. The words in these poems have the ability to move people. And we really wanted to be able to do that because at the end of the day, this is what it's about. It's about our humanity. It's about having a place in the world. And we want to invite people on our journey of working at this more root level. And that was a way that we wanted to do it. So,
what gave you the inspiration to call it Look Deeper?
If we're going to actually, make a really impactful difference, we need to understand what's causing these issues. And so we needed to make sure the focus always came back to, what's underneath, what's causing these issues. And that's where we landed on Look Deeper because it's also a call to action in itself, right? So, yeah.
It's a pretty major call to action, and it's a pretty big thing to ask of poets like you, Brita, to say, okay, here's this huge call to action, look deeper and tell me something in a minute or less that allows me to do that. How do you even begin to create a poem, with that huge frame?
Good coffee.
and fair trade coffee.
Good fair trade coffee. And working in collaboration, Robbi gave me one word. She said, interconnected. We are all connected, and by being able to boil it down gave me a good launching point. And also through poetry, it's not often on the air. And people's lives are so busy, and I think people kind of are thirsty for some sort of connection, and sometimes we're not even aware of it. And so I thought, if I could create that space, and if I could create that moment where they can exhale and realize they're not alone, then I've done a pretty good job. And I really believe that the first step has to be awareness. I have to, in my own life, I'm not going to change anything if I'm not aware. But as soon as I'm aware, the shift happens to me in responsibility, and then I have to choose what am I going to do with it. So I just thought, if I could just crack open that door and give them that, I think that's a pretty good day.
And how about when you are actually interacting? Because there's been, workshops with some of the other poets who are like trying their hand at this as well. How do you start a conversation with them?
Oh, that's an interesting one, because it's a conversation with themselves and their own practice, right? But it's also, how do you boil it right down? And I think we just said, if you're writing to a soccer mom, someone who's driving in her van and she's busy and she's got things going on, and how can you reach her with the words, with the power that you have, and the issues that you're passionate about? Like, what are you drawn towards in what's beneath, right? In the hunger or the poverty, or what gets you lit up that you can then connect to that person, that we're talking to one person at a time.
Now, Robbi, that 1 minute sort of clip that we heard at the front end of the interview clearly was produced with radio in mind. It's a perfect radio kind of soundbite. And I'm wondering, how are you hoping to use radio as a medium for getting this out to, as Brita said, the soccer mums of the province, and other people too, of course?
Right. Well, I think what's great about the medium of radio is that it really does have a wide reach, and we were really excited about that, about getting a simple yet complicated message to a really wide audience. And again, it's kind of that first step of just inviting people in to this conversation and into finding their place in working on these issues. And by doing this through the poetic spots, it was such a great opportunity to make people, like Brita said, just feel connected. And that's really all the radio spots have to do. We just want people to take that minute out of their day to just remember that they're a part of something larger, and to think about how they can play the best role in that. And there's other resources that we've done as well. So the website that we ask people to visit, which is lookdeeper.ca, has tons of resources to actually explore what is underneath these issues. So why can't we just grow more food to solve global hunger, And we highlight different things like, unequal access to land, human rights, how larger corporations are involved in growing more food that's made for export to richer countries, while more impoverished countries are going through droughts and not able to feed themselves, right? So again, these are big issues, but if we can help funnel people to understand what's underneath and kind of direct our energy there, that's where we're going to make the change. And the radio spots are meant to be the invitation into that.
Okay. Well, I think it's a fantastic initiative, and good for your two groups for actually taking on this bold challenge.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks a lot.
I'm having a blast.
Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, you always want it to actually be fun and enriching for yourself as well.
Yeah, and to be able to work with all the different people and Belle Plaine and the musicians, It's just beautiful. This has taken off in a way that we had hoped, but also past where we even, I think, envisioned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Glad to hear it. Take care.
Thank you.
Brita Lind and Robbi Humble are both involved in a project called Look Deeper. It's a campaign to raise awareness about social justice issues. They've been holding a competition with local spoken word artists to see who gets their words featured in the next round of radio promos. Next week on the show, we'll meet one of the winners.